everyone, how is it November already? I can't believe I'm sitting down to film my October wrap up. It doesn't seem like a whole month has gone by since the last time that I filmed a wrap up. And where did the time go? I just honestly don't know. You know, the clocks have gone back and it's turning into winter out there, and how is this happening? It is beyond me. And I don't know if it's because it was half term and so I had, in fact my kids' school holidays didn't match up, so I've had various combinations of my children off for 2.5 weeks in total. So I suppose the kind of family stuff has broken everything up, but October's just vanished. And I guess I had COVID as well, and so I don't know if just kind of losing a week also added to it. I don't know, but I'm not ready yet to start talking about everything I read in October, because surely it's not finished. But anyway, I read 6 books this month. I did read quite a lot when I wasn't very well, so I think I probably read 3 of these, maybe 4, just during those few days, because all I was doing was sitting and reading. So anyway, I'm going to try and read these in order. Yeah, I do review these on Goodreads, and then that helps me to look back and remember the order that I read them in, so I think I've got them right. But anyway, the first book I read this month was The Strawberry Thief by Joanne Harris. I picked this up at a garden show where they had like a little second-hand book sale, and I just kind of liked the spine. That was what made me pick it up, and it didn't sink in that Joanne Harris is the lady who wrote Chocolat, and that therefore this is actually part of this series. It just didn't hit me, I guess. And I liked that, so it says a death, a confession, and a little magic. And in the blurb, it shows that this is kind of magical realism, and it's set in France. And I thought, oh, that sounds lovely. It just didn't sink in that I've already read a book in this series, which I guess goes to show how much of an impact that book had on me. Although I did read it a very long time ago. I think I read it when the film came out. So anyway, this is book 4, and I only realised that when I put it into Goodreads and it comes up saying number 4, Chocolat, and I was like, oh, okay. So this book is about Viviane Rocher, who is the protagonist of the previous books and owns a chocolate shop in a small village, I guess you would say, in France, which is called Lansquenet-sous-Ton, maybe? I probably butchered that. And her youngest child, who is called Rosette, has a genetic disorder that means that she has issues with speaking, and she also just is quite an unusual child. And the book is told from multiple points of view, and one of them is hers. And Rosette is left a big plot of land, and that creates a lot of tension amongst local people and local families who feel that she shouldn't have been left that land, or why has she been left that land, and you sort of see all the interactions between all the different characters throughout the book. And initially, I really enjoyed this book. The beginning of it, I loved the style of it, it's very beautifully written. But as it went on, I just struggled to get into the story. I felt for large portions of it, not a great deal happened. And I do struggle when it's switching points of view, and it doesn't actually indicate very clearly who it is that's speaking. I like it when it has the character name as the title. Although I must say it was quickly evident. I've read books before where it takes a while to figure out which point of view it is, but actually this one, it was very quickly, because they were written in very different styles, so that was helpful. But I just do find that quite a difficult thing to get into. And that, for me, there were bits of it I really liked. I quite liked the ending, I liked the start of the book, I liked the style of the book, but it did just take me a very long time to read, which for me is a sign that I'm not kind of into it. So yeah, for me this was a real middling one. I kind of liked it, but yeah, not a favourite. So I think I gave this 3 stars. It's middling for me. And as I say, I can't remember how I felt about Chocolat, which is the second book in the series. Maybe that indicates that I felt much the same. I don't know. I haven't read the other 2. So yeah, okay, but I'm not going to rush to read the others in the series because I just didn't love it. So I'd love to know what you think of that one, because it's a super popular series. And then the next book that I read this month was An Englishman à la Campagne by Michael Sadler. I picked this up at the same garden show that I got The Strawberry Thief from, and because I'd already picked up The Strawberry Thief and that's set in France, and I thought, oh, let's have another French book, just have a bit of a kind of French reading vibe for a bit. And so it's got a tagline on the front by Michael Palin, so I thought, okay, this must be a well-known book. It was published in 2003 in France. So it was originally published in French as An Anglais à la Campagne, and then it was published in the UK in the English language version. And I think it's a sequel, I believe. And so it follows Michael as he is living in France and his kind of interactions with his neighbours and lots of amusing happenings. And I thought it would just give me that feeling of a place. That's why I like reading things that are set in other countries, just the kind of cultural sense of a place. I thought it would be amusing, and it just didn't do either of those things for me. It weirdly didn't feel super French to me. I don't know why. Other people would probably completely disagree with me. I honestly couldn't tell you why, because obviously I think it's because it's more about people rather than place. I think that for me is why. And that was why I liked The Strawberry Thief, because it was all about setting. And this is more about the interactions and sort of the French people. I don't know. Well, one thing was that I didn't find it particularly funny, and I mean, I guess that's subjective. But the other thing, which wasn't really an issue for me, but just annoyed me, is that there are lots of instances in this book where it uses French phrases to comedic effect. So for instance, it might say a phrase and then make a quip that, oh, I thought that they meant this in English, but then doesn't say what it actually means, or it kind of does a little play on word things, or just says a French statement as part of a paragraph. And it wasn't an issue for me because I do speak French very well. But it annoyed me that I think in the back of my head I always have a bit of a, what would other people think of this book? And if you didn't speak French, then you would really struggle to understand what he was saying. And I feel like it should always be clear and not assume that, you know, in this case, that somebody speaks French and knows what you're saying. And I don't think someone should have to go away and look it up. So that kind of bugged me, even though it didn't affect me. So I don't know, again, it was all right, but I didn't love it. Quite a quick read, so there was that. So, you know, I mean, it seems like it's a popular book, but I personally didn't love it. So, yeah, my little French reading, I don't know, session didn't really go as I'd hoped. Please do recommend any books set in France. It doesn't have to be like a travel book, but what's your favourite book set in France? I would really love to read some really good, you know, stuff that just makes me want to travel and feel really inspired by it. So please do recommend. Right, what did I read next? And then the next book that I read this month, I'm not totally sure, but I think it was Girl A by Abigail Dean. And this was a book club read. We picked this because it's just been everywhere. I've seen it in shop window displays. Lots of people are recommending it as a book club read online. I've seen it on Bookstagram. It's getting a lot of promotion. And we also tend to try to pick newer books because we all read a lot, and so often one of us will have read a book. So if you go for something new, we're less likely to have. So anyway, yeah, Girl A is about a woman called Lex, and when Lex was young, she grew up, her and her siblings were horribly abused by her parents, and it's now, with her as an adult, her mother has died and Lex is the executor of the will, and she then has to contact her siblings to talk about how to sort of move forward with the contents of the will. And then it constantly revisits what happened when she was young and reveals more and more of what went on. And when I initially started reading it, I absolutely loved it. I was really gripped by it. The writing is really compelling. The characters are interesting because the story really examines how all the different characters, how all the siblings have reacted differently to what happened. It kind of went between looking at their sort of recovery and then also looking at revealing what happened. So, and it was really well done. And actually the things that I thought would be revealed, what I was kind of expecting to happen, wasn't what actually happened. So it's always nice when you get to the end of the book and you're not like, yeah, well, I figured that was what happened. It did, I wouldn't say I was like surprised, but it wasn't predictable. So that's always really good when you're reading like a thriller type of book. So I did really enjoy it. I read it really quickly. It is really well written and really well kind of planned out and revealed to just keep you reading. My only reservation about it is that although it says in the book, you know, it's not based on a true story, it does bear some resemblances to a real crime. I mean, I suppose many thrillers do. But my reservation was that this is such a extraordinary circumstance that I just felt that it was difficult to give a fictional, although I think it was done really well, and I'm not saying that what was portrayed in the book isn't realistic. I think maybe because it was so traumatic, I just felt, how could you know how somebody will react, and also for the people who really experienced that, how would that feel to have a fictionalized account that, you know, I feel like if it's something that's written with the knowledge of the family, and as I say, it says it's totally fictionalized, so I'm not trying to say that, but like if it's done, even if it was done with like the advice of somebody who's been through these circumstances, so that you know that it's realistically portrayed, if that makes sense. And it didn't read that it wasn't realistic, but I just felt at the end of it that it was such a difficult thing to write about, and a thing that, it's not like if you're writing about something that's just quite commonplace and happens to lots of people and lots of people react in different ways, and you know, it's something where it's a real unusual circumstance. And I mean, I suppose like that in all books you're going to have things that are unusual. I mean, like nobody has had to throw one ring into a volcano, but who's saying that the characters in Lord of the Rings didn't react unrealistically? I don't know. I think because there could be people out there who've experienced it and it may not be realistic. I think that's the conclusion of what I'm trying to say. And it just worried me, I guess. But aside from that, it was really, really well written, and I think well considered, despite what I said. Wow, what a good review, Emma. Well done. Yeah, I don't know if that makes any sense. I think when it's sort of crime, I think when it's like trauma stuff and when you're looking at survivors, I just find it a little bit difficult sometimes. So although it's a fictional thing, I just had that in the back of my mind. So anyway, it was a good read. I enjoyed reading it. So then the next one that I read this month was this. The travel book by Lonely Planet, A Journey Through Every Country in the World. And we got this in the first lockdown. A church near us had like a book swap that they set up because all the libraries were closed, and there were lots of people who had read everything that they had and just wanted to book swap. And so yeah, it was like a little local book swap thing, which was really nice. And I saw this and was just like, yes, I want to read this. I love, as I've already said, reading about other countries. And I also thought it would be a brilliant book for the children to be able to reference and look through and get a feel for all different countries. And yeah, that's why I picked that up. And at the time, I was like, yeah, I'm going to read it cover to cover. And then I didn't. So, but now I have, because it's been sat there and I've been like, I know that this is the kind of book that you're meant to kind of dip in and out of, but I wanted to read the whole thing and get that kind of wanderlust and where am I going to go, and yeah. So anyway, I did finally, and it's brilliant. You get like a double page spread on each country, and it has some photos, and then it goes through the best time to visit, top things to see, top things to do, getting under the skin, which is like a cultural bit, in a word, and they give you like a phrase from the country, trademarks, and a random fact. And it's alphabetized, and it just gives you lots of different countries and just a snapshot. And I really enjoyed it. As I say, I think this is going to be a great thing to have around for the kids to have for sort of homework. They really enjoy flicking through it and looking and going, wow, that looks amazing. And we've gone through and looked at the places where we've been. I loved it. I really loved it. I think it's really fun. There's a few places in here that I would love to go. Well, I'd want to go to all of them, to be fair. Yeah, loved it. Loved this one. It's just very big. Actually, it lives down here next to the bookcase because it doesn't fit on my bookcase. So very much enjoyed that. And so then I read The Story of Tracey Beaker by Jacqueline Wilson. Now this is my daughter's book. She is 8, nearly 9. She loves Jacqueline Wilson, and she's got a lot of her books, and she loves The Story of Tracey Beaker. She's been watching all the old series on TV, and yeah, she keeps asking me, like, have you read Tracey Beaker? Yes, I did when I was your age. And have you seen this programme? Yes, I've seen them. And then the other day, she was watching my mum, Tracey Beaker, and I sat and watched it with her. And it just brought back a lot of nostalgia. And I was like, actually, you know what? I am going to have another read of this because I do remember it really clearly. Some books you remember and some you don't. And it was nice reading it and being like, oh yeah, I remember this. But then there was some stuff in it that I didn't remember, and it's so well written. I think coming to it as an adult and looking at it going, this is just so cleverly done because it's funny. I should say before I start, in case you don't know, if you haven't come across The Story of Tracey Beaker before, it's about a girl who is in a care home, and she is quite sort of challenging in her behaviour, and she talks about how her mum's going to come back for her, and her mum is like this rich, famous, sort of lives in Hollywood, and she kind of, it's about her and her interactions with everyone else in the care home, and it's just so cleverly done because it's funny and it's really accessible for, you know, a child of my daughter's age, but it's also really poignant. And I think that those sort of poignant and sad things are things that it's not told in a really heart-rending way, which makes it all the more powerful. Just some of the sort of throwaway statements that she makes and you're like, oh, wow. And my daughter might not pick up on all of it. And I just think in that respect, it's so well crafted because it's really well layered. I also loved the fact that it kind of tells a snippet of her life because it's supposedly written by her. It's like diary entries, and it doesn't tell the full story. And I love that it finishes and you are left wanting to know more and what happens next. So I love that too. But it's just some of the stuff that really indicates, I think as well, I don't know how much my daughter picks up on like why Tracey is telling these stories about her mum and why the children are saying some of the things that they are or acting the way that they are, and that may be, as I say, more of a layer that an adult will read into. For her, it's more like some funny stories about some kids who live in a care home, and so yeah, I did. But I also love the fact that, I mean, this was quite a big deal in that the protagonist is a child in care. And that's not something that had been written about before Jacqueline Wilson. So, and I love that Jacqueline Wilson's stories are very, very real. So, yeah, loved it. Really, really loved it. It was really kind of heartbreaking, but not told in that way, which I absolutely love. So loved that, gave it 5 stars, and I'm going to pick up a couple of the others. Say pick up, they're on my daughter's bookcase. I'm going to read another couple in that series because I loved reading it. And then finally, I finished the month with reading Breastfeeding for Dads by Dr. Russ King and Claudia Pfeiffer. This was sent to me to review for a magazine, and I hated it. And I hate that I'm ending this video with a book that I hate. It's really rare for me to say that as well. Normally, I mean, like for example, with A Strawberry Thief. I didn't love it, but it was all right. And like the Englishman a la Campagne, you know, it wasn't my thing, but I'm not, you know, other people might enjoy it, and it clearly lots of people do. But yeah, so it's quite rare for me to say no. I really, really did not like this. It says, a guide for truly hands-on fathers, and is aimed at a new dad. So the first thing is that I don't like that it assumes that all partners are male. But if I overlook that and say, okay, so it's marketed towards dads, okay, fine. But then it has so many stereotypes in it. There's lots of like football and beer and cars, and then the thing that bugged me the most is there's a lot of like would you say sexual innuendos, like sexual kind of, I don't know, stuff that just suggests that like they're kind of boob obsessed, and I feel like it was such a stereotype that was disrespectful, and I didn't like it at all. And then it also had a lot of stuff that's incorrect in it. For example, it says that when the milk comes in, your breasts may be red and hot to the touch, and that's not true. That's mastitis, and you need to, you know, do something about that, not just assume it's your milk coming in and things like that, where I was like, oh no. And then it also, the one part that I did really like, it's got a section on massage. Normally I would start with something nice. I'll start with something, I'll include something nice here. Yeah, it's got a really nice section on massage that I thought sounded really lovely. I don't know that there's any like proven scientific benefit, I've got no idea, but it sounded nice. So breastfeeding massage sounded good. But it says, so in the blurb, it says the arch enemy of breastfeeding is stress. Okay. In the introduction, it says, why can't, oh no, that's not the introduction, that's why it's not there. The introduction. One of the main issues is that the breastfeeding mechanism is very sensitive to stress. Literally, blurb and introduction. And then a couple of times in the book, it talks about stress. That is the only reason given that there could be, that could impact milk supply, and it's not the only thing that impacts milk supply. There can be lots of things, and actually, you know, having a new baby is stressful, and I worry that you could end up with your partner kind of going, don't get stressed out, it will affect the milk. It's like, ugh. And that you attributing any issues to stress, and actually, as I say, there's lots of things, and what I would have loved is for this book to have given some basic troubleshooting, to have said, oh, maybe if things aren't going massively well, then maybe you might want to go and visit a local breastfeeding support group, or maybe you could call the breastfeeding helpline. Here are some relatively common things that someone may come across, and here's the things that you can do about it, and just some real basic troubleshooting, because actually a partner can be in an amazing position to be the person to encourage you to seek help, or to be able to say, well, do you think that might be that, and should we maybe see somebody about that, or maybe we can try these actions for that. So it could have had all of that, and that would have been so helpful to have a partner who can sort of support you with those things. But actually it just said was stress. And it's even in the blurb, it bugged me so much, because stress can have an impact, because adrenaline has an impact on milk supply. But yeah, it's the only thing that's given, and there were lots of little snippets in this book that I didn't like. And ultimately, I felt that yes, it had some information on how breastfeeding works, and some nice little odds and ends about being supportive, and it had massage was nice. Oh, another thing it has is at the back, it has soul food for new families, and it has like some recipes and some ideas for some healthy food to have. But then it's got milk boosters. Now, there's no scientific basis for milk boosters. People saying that, you know, oats, for example, boost milk supply. There's no evidence of that. And so, I mean, there's no problem with eating it, but suggesting that it's a milk booster, that's not, there's no evidence to support that. and it's got tipples for nipples, and it talks about breastfeeding tea. You can get it at a specialist shop. It's actually very expensive. Again, no evidence. So yeah, that bugged me too. Although the whole idea of let's eat healthily and here's some recipes, lovely idea. But it just then it included things that weren't backed up by evidence and could lead to someone going, hey, let's have this. It might help your milk supply. And actually good support would be a lot more helpful. Didn't like it at all. So what a great way to end this video. So that's everything I read this month. What am I reading at the moment? Oh, I think it's called A Pinch of Magic. I nicked it off my daughter's bookcase because it had a nice cover and sprayed edges. I don't know where it is, or I'd show you. So anyway, that's everything I read in October. What are you reading at the moment, or have you read anything good lately? I'm particularly interested in any recommendations of books set in France or set in other countries, just things that are gonna give me more of the travel bugs. Probably not a good idea. I've been reading all this travel stuff and I just want to go other places at a time when that is not so easy. But anyway, I like reading that kind of stuff. So yeah, let me know what you're reading and what you've enjoyed reading lately. And don't forget to hit like if you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this one. Take care.